Hey everybody, it's Erin, and today I am planting up this part of the garden behind me, which is a really important part of my garden. It is right by the entrance that we use all the time. So we see this garden every day, multiple times. When we sit on the patio, we see this garden. When we sit on the deck, we see this garden. And it's an area that I've been struggling with for a couple of years. It's probably one of the first areas I ever planted up, like 16 years ago. And over the years, some things worked and some things didn't work. But it's really been faltering in the past couple of years, and I've been planting a lot of annuals in this area, and I am trying to get away from planting quite so many annuals. I do love annuals in my garden. I'll never be without them. But there are some great perennials that I have been missing out on, and there is something lovely about a well-established perennial garden. So I have really been thinking this area through and working on this area, and I've had these plants sitting in pots in this area for probably 3 weeks as I rearrange things and make sure that everything looks right. So I just want to walk you through the plants. First of all, I will tell you that right behind me is the Cornuscusa satomi that I planted up in the tree planting video. It has been very slow to leaf out, along with all of the other dogwoods in our yard this year. It's just been a very, very, very cool spring, and everything's just been a little slow. So hopefully that's not the case every year, because it's kind of an important part. I'd rather not have like a bare tree sitting there all the time, but we will see. You got to play it out, give things some time to get settled in and see how it all works. So quickly, the planting is going to be, and I'll walk you through the garden a little bit, but the whole idea is that we'll be planting everything in mass. There's not going to be any bits and bobs. It's going to be big chunks and swaths of plants, although this is a relatively small area. So the planting idea always started with, you guys know me, if there's a place to stick a clematis in the garden, I will put one in. And this one is Stand By Me, which is a bush clematis. It gets probably 30 inches tall. It'll bush up quite a bit. I'll have 3 of these planted right next to each other, and these will get beautiful blue flower on them. And the blue flowers stay for a long time. And then when they're done, you get these gorgeous seed heads. And I think clematis are worth planting as much for their seed heads as they are for their flowers, because they have some of the best seed heads of any plant, in my opinion. I'm also wanting the texture of grass. I do love a grass in a garden. And this is Ceslaria, which is autumn moor grass. This will only get 12 to 14 inches tall, but I'm going to plant a big, again, kind of river or swath of these through it. And I think it'll add that airy texture that just really helps pull a garden together. Sometimes you need that texture contrast, and this one is particularly good, I think. It has these upright, it's got these upright leaves. It will also get a white flower in fall that I believe will fade out to a dark color, but I've not grown it before, so I'm not positive on that. I will also have some Echinops Retro. This is a globe thistle. This one's called Vetch's Blue. I had to order this one because I've been looking for it for a long time. It's a shorter growing one than others I have growing in my garden, and it gets a very, very blue button flower on it. And the thing with globe thistle is that they flower and they're kind of puffy, and once all those little florets start turning brown, you can kind of wipe them off and you're still left with the thistly part, and it's still a beautiful, those flowers are still beautiful on there. Also, we have Cat's Pajamas. This is a new Nepeta this year, and check out that color, you guys. It's just this like iridescent blue, and I am a huge fan of Nepeta. It is one of my go-to garden plants because they bloom for a long time. When they're done blooming, you can cut them back and you can get rebloom. I can get 3 reblooms out of some of the Nepetas in my garden. And best of all, in my opinion, rabbits and deer have no interest in them whatsoever. They are just tough, tough, tough plants. And you know, I have a lot of plants in my garden that need a little babying, and these aren't one of them. And you have to have those garden stalwarts that just manage themselves. This stays nice and short and round. It'll be right at the front of the border. I am also going to have in there some lemon jade sedum. This is a sedum that gets kind of a yellow color flower instead of that pink that you might be more familiar with, like Autumn Joy, which is the one that everyone has. I was lucky enough to find 3 of these plants this size very inexpensively at our hardware store, which has a great flower selection. And I actually will probably divide these plants because they are big enough to be able to divide. And the other great thing about sedums, of course, is that they root like nobody's business. So if you go in here and pinch these out, you can just stick the cutting straight into the ground. And I would say 75 to 80% of them, without doing anything else other than jamming them in the ground and walking away, will end up rooting and becoming plants. So if you are looking to easily fill up an area, a sedum is a great way to do it. And also they have great winter interest, so they have a lot going on. I am going to be putting a couple of annuals in here. One of them is Supertunia bubblegum. You guys all know this plant. Basically, I just wanted a little pop of pink in the corner, and I didn't want to spend a lot of money, so I figured 2 Supertunia vistas would take care of that. I'm also going to have Rockin' Fuchsia salvia. This is such a great plant. I planted this last year in containers, and it got kind of big, but it's so beautiful, and I wanted to plant it in the ground. So this year I will have this, and the hummingbirds absolutely adore this plant. Along the pink line of things, I will have Gallery Art Nouveau Dahlia. This is one of the dahlias that I planted up in the video where I showed you how to plant dahlias ahead of time in containers to get a little jump on the season. And here we are, beginning of June, and we've got flower buds on here. So I guess that worked. This is a nice short growing variety. I'm going to put this right in the front of the border as well, right along the patio. Big, nice pop of bright pink color on there. A couple other annuals that I'll be putting in here include this Salvia argentea. This is silver sage. I grew this from seed. It's looking a little yellow right now because 1, it's in need of some water, and 2, it really wants to be out of this container. I should have planted it a bit ago. But this is a lovely kind of silver foliage, kind of hairy foliage. It's a biennial. I actually love the flowers on it, so I really would love it if I could get it to bloom next year. But the foliage on it is what most people grow it for. And it's these big, thick, kind of gray foliage. So I'll be able to plant this in mass for pennies because I grew this from seed. I'll also put in here Nicotiana, which you guys know I put almost everywhere in the garden. I just think it's this great, it just really carries the garden. It goes well with everything. This is honeywort, and the botanical name is completely escaping me right now, Ceranth. And this gets these beautiful purple blooms on it. I've not planted this before, but I love this plant every time I see it in a picture. So I'm pretty excited, and I'll be putting some of this around as well. And I don't exactly have it planned where all the annuals are going to go, but I'll get a better feel once I get the perennials in there. So it's actually the next day. It turns out that every time I turn on a camera to make a video, it starts raining this spring. It's not the worst thing because the plants actually get some nice rain right after they've been planted, so I guess that's good. It just makes the video portion of the situation a little difficult. But it's all planted and it's all mulched. I have decided, by the way, that I hate mulching. It's just such a pain to go around all those plants. I think if I were smart, I would have mulched first and pulled the mulch away to plant. So anyways, I'm just going to show you guys how it all turned out. I'm thrilled, especially after sort of thinking about this area and looking at all these plants in pots for the longest time. A quick note on the mulch I use arborist chips, which are just the ground up branches, the trees that we have taken down. When we have trees taken down, they are more than happy to dump the chips and leave them here. So we have kind of a big pile, and I use them for everything. I use them for mulching. They break down great and become an amazing soil amendment over time. They actually break down pretty quickly. It's always amazing to me because there are some pretty big chunks in these, but they aren't the prettiest mulch in the world. But you know, all mulch kind of starts looking the same after a while. It all looks, the really nice stuff that you buy in the bags looks really nice at first, but after a while it all kind of looks the same. So I'm good with free. I'd rather spend my money on plants, and hopefully these plants will all fill in nicely. You won't see much mulch anyway. So let's just take a quick look at the garden and see how this all turned out. So these are sort of the side stairs off our deck that kind of go into our side yard. Back along the railing there, I've got 3 limelight hydrangeas, which are just starting to leaf out now. And those will grow up almost to the top of the railing by the end of the year, by the end of summer. And we'll get great, beautiful flowers. In here we've got a couple of hostas that I've divided. I do have kind of a bare area in here right now, just in front of these hydrangeas, but I will fill that in with something. I'm just not sure what. I've got plenty of annuals I can pop in there. I just kind of wanted to play that by ear. In front here, we've got plenty of Millennium alliums. I actually had these originally all spread out all over the garden, and I went and collected them all and put them all in one area. So I think this will be much prettier to have one big swoosh. Here are the Autumn Frost hostas and the Stripe It Rich Hackenlacloa. There's another hosta back here, and I'm sorry I cannot remember the name of that one. I've also put in some divisions of Lady's Mantle here, and this is a Blue Globe spruce that I pruned up this fall, or this spring, and I like how it looks. It kind of makes it airy. It was kind of a big sort of blob before. As we look over here, kind of cascading over the wall, here is the Sapphire Indigo Clematis, maybe my favorite clematis. I absolutely adore it. And here we've got a tree peony that is just about to bloom. I think this is called, I don't remember, Dr. Ruppel, something like that. I see 3 big fat buds on it. Of course, we've got the willow that I showed you earlier. Then in here, we've got some of the lemon jade sedum there. I've got the echinops in the middle there. There's more lemon jade sedum in the back and some nicotiana. And then as we come around here, you can see that on this side, I've got more lemon jade sedum. Here's the Ceranth, which will fill this area in really well. And then we've got the 3 Stand By Me clematis, that great ornamental onion there, which I actually think is a Japanese onion of some kind. Along the path here, we've got Rockin' Fuchsia Salvia. And here's where I put all the silver sage. It doesn't look like much right now, but that should bulk up quite quickly, I think. I always love to throw in a bit of driftwood, kind of have bits of that all over my garden. Of course, here we've got the Super Tuna Vista bubblegum, cat's pajamas. Here's all the dahlias. This I didn't talk about before. This is Little Miss Sunshine sedum, which is sort of a ground cover that should fill in this whole area. I also have another plant over here that I forgot to mention before. So this little plant is Phlomis russellinii, and it's a spreader. It's got fuzzy leaves, so things shouldn't eat it. And it's a spreader, and it gets these great sort of candelabra type yellow flowers on it. And you can kind of see as we tuck along back here, everything over here has been cleaned up, and I will continue to fill in some of these blank spots once things fill up a little bit more. Of course, the all-important ginkgo is looking fabulous, and the grasses are already starting to do their thing and move around in the breeze. So that's this new part of the garden. Thank you guys so much for watching. I'm really excited about this project, and it feels really good to have that checked off the list and just have an area that already I really like. It looks so much better than what was there, and I can't wait to see it grow. So if you like this video, hey, do me a favor, give it a little thumbs up. I appreciate you guys watching. I'd love to hear your comments about what I'm doing in my garden and what you're doing in your garden. And speaking of that, I hope you have a great day in your garden. Thanks for watching.